Hugh Jackman is one of the few actors I can think of that hasn't let playing a superhero define the rest of his acting career. Jackman has played Wolverine for 2 decades at this point and is reprising the role in Deadpool 3. But whereas other actors that played superheroes have been defined by their superheroes for more than a decade, actors like Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, and until Oppenheimer, even Robert Downey Jr., Jackman has avoided that fate. He has, in all that time, never settled for just Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is an actor's actor and has found success on the stage and in movies and has won most major awards, including 2 Tonys, a Grammy, a Golden Globe, and an Emmy, meaning the only thing he has left to become an EGOT is an Academy Award. Jackman got his start, as so many actors do, on the stage at his school, where he starred in a production of My Fair Lady in 1985. In an interview, Jackman said, quote, "It wasn't until I was 22 that I ever thought about my hobby being something I could make a living out of. As a boy, I had always had an interest in theater, but the idea at my school was that drama and music were to round out the man. It wasn't what one did for a living. I got over that," end quote. In 1995, when he was 27, he got his first major TV role, a lead role in the 10-episode Australian series Corelli. A year later, he returned to the stage to play Gaston in a local stage production of Beauty and the Beast and Sunset Boulevard. He did a bit of TV work here and there and also appeared in a couple of films, both released in 1999, Erskineville Kings and Paperback Hero. It's worth noting that these are the only 2 movies Jackman did before landing the role of Wolverine in 2000's Xmen. Still, he was mostly well known in Australia up until this point. In 1998, he earned an Olivier Award nomination for Best Actor in a Musical for a production of Oklahoma, where he played one of the leads. The role helped him get more attention outside his home country and probably helped contribute to him getting his most important role until then, Wolverine in X-Men. The movie, along with Blade a couple of years before, and Spider-Man a couple of years after, helped revitalize the superhero movie after 1997's Batman and Robin was a critical and commercial flop. Jackman took inspiration from how Mel Gibson and Clint Eastwood played Max Rokitansky and Harry Callahan in the Mad Max and Dirty Harry series respectively, saying, quote, "There were guys who had relatively little dialogue like Wolverine had, but you knew and felt everything. I'm not normally one to copy, but I wanted to see how these guys achieved it," end quote. Jackman devoted himself to the role, doing many of his own stunts and getting used to wearing the claws even outside of filming. Jackman would come back many times to reprise the role. 2003's X2, 2006's The Last Stand, 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, a cameo in 2011's First Class, 2013's Wolverine, 2014's Days of Future Past, 2016's Apocalypse, and of course 2017's Logan, perhaps the best of the X-Men films and one of the best superhero films. But in order to not be typecast, you need to cast a wide net and play a variety of roles. That's what Jackman did that others, like Daniel Radcliffe and Mark Hamill, weren't able to do as they worked on their franchises. For example, between 2000's X-Men and 2003's X2, Jackman had 3 other movies: Someone Like You, Swordfish, and Kate and Leopold, all released in 2001. Comparatively, Daniel Radcliffe only had 1 non-Potter movie in over 10 years of playing Harry Potter. In 2004, between X2 and The Last Stand, Jackman did Van Helsing, while in 2006, Jackman was in an astonishing 6 movies, including Scoop, opposite Scarlett Johansson, The Prestige, opposite Christian Bale and directed by Christopher Nolan, and as a voice actor in Happy Feet. If you look at Hugh Jackman's filmography, one thing becomes very obvious. He keeps himself ridiculously busy, often doing 2 or more movies per year. He only has a handful of years where he only does 1 movie, usually an X-Men movie, which makes sense as they are physically intensive. This work ethic, more than anything, is why he's avoided being typecast. Jackman has never been happy playing to type or just portraying one kind of character, and his varied roles on stage and on screen has prevented that. For comparison, Mark Hamill, who played Mozart in a theater production of Amadeus, met with Milos Forman to see if he could play Mozart in the 1984 movie, which Forman was directing. According to Hamill, Forman's response was, quote, "Oh, no. The Luke Skywalker is not to be being the Mozart," end quote. According to Jackman, it wasn't career or future planning. In his words, quote, "There was a little period in 2003 or 2004, I think, when I remember I was like, oh, I'm only getting action films. It was always a surprise to me, just like the musicals were a surprise. I never felt that I deliberately was choosing things just to make sure that I wasn't sending a message like, I'm the action guy, I'm a musical guy. I've always thrived on the variety, but I'm more instinctive now about my choices. It's not so planned out, end quote. Some of that might just be modesty, but as someone who can sing, dance, and act, it seems to ring partially true. He took the roles that appealed to him, and they happen to be a decent mix, which has allowed him to thrive in a variety of movies. Now, that necessarily means that some of his movies flop critically or commercially, such as 2008's Deception, 2011's Snowflower and the Secret Fan, and Real Steel, 2015's Pan, 2018's The Frontrunner, 2021's Reminiscence, and 2022's The Sun. Just as well though, many of his movies are wildly successful. 2008's Australia, 2012's Rise of the Guardians, 2012's Les Miserables, which is considered one of the best musical films of the 21st century, 2013's Prisoners, directed by Denis Villeneuve, 2015's Chappie, 2017's The Greatest Showman, where he played the legendary entertainer P.T. Barnum, and 2019's Bad Education. Jackman has had a long, varied career. While 2024's Deadpool will be a return to form as Wolverine, he already has 2 other non-Wolverine projects in pre-production. He is one of the finest actors of his generation, and I think there's still a lot to look forward to from him.